ethical hackers, welcome back to this new video on the Hackerish YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to answer your questions which you asked in the post that I published on YouTube celebrating the 3,000 subscribers. It's been a year since I started this channel and it's already 3,000 subscribers. So I'm really thankful for that. I hope that the content is relevant for you, and as a token of appreciation, I asked you to fill up this form with 3 questions that you want me to answer. We are in total of 14 questions. So I gather that maybe not all of you are subscribed with the notifications. I might do another video in the future answering some of your other questions, so make sure to enable notifications to be notified whenever I publish something, including this form. So let's start with the first question. How did you start hacking? I was interested in computers since I was a teenager. I remember installing Windows 95 and 98 with my dad using the command line of MS-DOS, and I was fascinated by computers. But hacking was something I started getting interested in later in the future when I started developing web applications. I always had this background thoughts about someone somewhere in the world who would break my application. And this always gave me fear about hackers and what they can do to what I'm building. So that's why I got interested in hacking. I started learning how to hack websites, how penetration testing is done, etc. I read some books and I got hooked, to be honest. So instead of developing now, I like to break things. Okay, next question. Best books for bug bounty hunter. I already published a blog post about that. So if you go to the Hackerish and you scroll down, you have the latest posts. And here I'm talking about so many books that you can learn from. Starting with Web Hacking 101, which is specific to bug bounty hunting, and finishing with some more general hacking books like Hack Like a Ghost. This is a recent addition to this blog post, so make sure to subscribe to the newsletter if you want to get news whenever I publish some. This one is for Red Team members who specialize in hacking companies using advanced techniques. So in between you have something like the Web Application Hackers Handbook, 2nd edition, which is the go-to, the Bible, the most valuable book that you should read about web application hacking. You have the basics of hacking and penetration testing. So if you remember from the first question, I told you that I read some books, and this was the first book that I read about penetration testing. And it really gave me the general methodology and overview of what it's like to do hacking. The blog post covers the books that I've read, which I think are very important for any bug bounty hunter. Okay, next question. A practical example on how we can find remote code execution. So the question is very specific. Remote code execution is when you have pretty much a shell on the box. So to achieve that, you have many paths depending on where the vulnerability exists. In general, whenever you find an input which does something that might interact directly with the operating system, like resolving DNS names, pinging an IP address, or maybe configuring a server, that could be an input which is directly injected into an operating system command, in which case you can achieve remote code execution. Another way to achieve that is to maybe exploit vulnerable components which are already vulnerable to remote code execution, which the developers didn't update. Other things like server-side template injection, which allow you to directly inject commands using template engines such as Jinja. If you want to learn more about that, there is an awesome blog post on portswigger.net which explains this vulnerability in detail, and as you can see, you can often obtain remote code execution. So make sure to give it a read. It's really worth it. Another thing you can do is look on Hacktivity for any reports talking about remote code execution. So I've already talked about this awesome resource in a blog post. So if you go to bug bounty hunting, there is a guide that talks pretty much about the general and specific things about bug bounty hunting, starting from a general view down to the details. And one of them is the bug bounty challenges section, where I talk about Hacktivity. If you go to Hacktivity, you have the possibility to search with keywords. So in this case, what I'm interested in is, as the question asks, remote code execution. So the first keyword is RCE. So here you have, for example, file writing by directory traversal. You can gather now that directory traversal is also a path that can give you remote code execution. Other keywords you might use is command injection. So remote code execution also is another keyword. So here you have a OS command injection via IP parameter. So this joins the idea that I said before about input fields which are directly injected into operating system commands. I guess these are examples of remote code execution. I hope I answered this question correctly. Let's move to the next one. Please make a video on phishing with Kingfisher in VPS. Kingfisher. I think I have seen that before. So it's a phishing campaign toolkit which provides a dashboard that allows to send email with embedded images, web page cloning capabilities for phishing campaigns, sender policy framework checks, geolocation for dashboarding, send email with calendar invitations. This is an interesting tool. Generally, when I want to install a tool, the first thing I look for is Docker file, because I love Docker, and if there is a Docker file, that means that I can run it without ever having to worry about installing any dependencies. Okay, so it seems that we have a Docker file in this file. Let's view the file. So it's trying to fetch that Docker image, which is already present in Docker Hub. And it's running a command, generating a random password here, and then it's using it to initiate, to create a new user. And then it's running bin bash config startup.sh. So I would say that this is fairly straightforward to set up. You just need to clone this repository and then go to data server docker and then docker build dot, and you can give it a name if you want, so Kingfisher. And then what you just need to do is docker run the name that we gave it, Kingfisher in this case, and maybe some port that need to be open for email and web. So maybe I can provide a video for that in the future. I hope it's not going to be banned by YouTube, because it's a tool that allows to phish people, which is not something I would consider ethical, apart from having an engagement with a client, which asks you to do phishing. Okay, next question. Do you think OSCP gonna be worth for upcoming years? I think so. I mean, up until now, all the job offers that I see contain OSCP, and since the demand for information security people is growing, I think that this certification is going to still remain relevant, especially with the update, which includes several new interesting topics that give yet even more value to information security professionals who want to hold such certification. Okay, next question. How to start bug bounty hunting? This is a general question. I would say start by learning about web application security because most of the programs at least have a web application. So to do that, I highly recommend that you read this book. As a heads up, it's a really heavy book, so give it some time to understand, to read and digest, and make notes. And then just practice. Just choose a program and then start applying whatever you learned from that book. If you want to practice on labs, there are many labs, and I provide one. So you just go to thehackerish.com and there you have it. It's a free hacking lab, so you just click here and then you download the lab and you start experimenting with web application security. Once you feel that you kind of know the basics of web application security, what is SQL injection, what is CSRF, what is cross-site scripting, and most importantly, how to exploit each use case and each type, then you build upon this by combining the techniques and learning obscure techniques. And you can do that by subscribing to Twitter accounts. So for example, I am following some interesting accounts like Simon Bennett, the maintainer of OSCP attack proxy. You can just copy my accounts, go here and then follow whatever I'm following. There's the bug bot that scrapes Twitter, and whenever there are bug bounty tips, they are shown in your feed. There's Alex Chapman, a great hacker. There are so many others. So to sum up, start reading as much as you can, follow great people, and just be open to learn. I think that's it if you want to start bug bounty hunting. The next question is how to learn more in bug bounty hunting. Well, you do whatever I said in the previous question. You try to come up with your own methodology, your own tools. You might create, you might also expand beyond web application security. For example, learn more about binaries. Some programs provide binaries. Do more of code review because some programs have open source projects that you can read and find vulnerabilities. You can learn mobile application security with Android, iOS. You already said it in your question. You just keep learning. You learn from other great people in the community, and this is how you would advance. What is your favorite bug? I'm more interested in server-side bugs. I don't quite like client-side bugs because they require user interaction, but server-side bugs give you straight access to whatever resource the vulnerability allows you to get without the need of any user interaction. And among those vulnerabilities, I would say that anything that gives me a high or critical severity issue. So if I'm able to access other users using an IDOR, that's a favorite bug. If I am able to read the database using a SQL injection, then this is also something I really like. Lately, I found remote code execution, which I shared in the blog. The title is Bug Bounty Write-Up from SSRF to $4,000. I walk through the steps that I followed in order to discover this remote code execution. And the first lead was just a lame SSRF, which I didn't know how to exploit. This allowed me to exfiltrate files and give me SSH access to the box. So you can read it. There's also a video about it in the channel. These are the kind of bugs that I really like. Next question. How did you stay motivated when you had self-doubt which resists you to make a step on learning? If I understood correctly, it's really a tricky situation anyone can be in. I myself experienced it a lot of times. And it usually happens when you don't find a bug for a really long time, like months. So you start doubting yourself, your capabilities, your self-esteem is low, and you don't have motivation anymore. So what to do in this case? Well, I tend to take a break to put things in perspective. Because if I'm hacking without any productivity, meaning that I don't have any leads or I don't follow a certain methodology in my testing, it's just because maybe I am unfocused. So I would take a break, just go for a walk, take a shower, or maybe watch a movie or read a book or something else that would give me some distance. And meanwhile, I might have a lead, I might have an idea when I'm doing the other activity. But if I don't have anything and my motivation is still low, one trick I found that helped me was solve some really small challenges. I mentioned the Hacker 101 in the bug bounty hunting series. So this is the website, the Hacker 101, which provides you with many lessons and capture the flag challenges. And they are really small challenges that range from really easy to really hard problems. When I start solving challenge after challenge, my self-confidence just boosted up. I feel that I have some motivation to get back to bug bounty hunting. You might also talk with a friend, a buddy, a hacking buddy, who can support you during that phase. He or she can also give you some areas where you should look for. You can collaborate on certain programs, etc. If you are the kind of person who interacts with people, then I highly recommend you collaborate with others. But just bear in mind that this is really normal. It happens a lot to a lot of bug bounty hunters. It's not an easy job to be a bug bounty hunter. You need to overcome a lot of problems. So just bear in mind that this is normal, and when it happens, it's not the end of the world. Okay, question 10. What do you eat for breakfast? It depends on my mood. Sometimes it's coffee with a toast and cheese. Other times it's cookies with tea. Other times it's a croissant with a coffee. Yeah, it really depends on my mood. How to manage all the tools in Linux for bug bounty? This is a good question actually, because when you do bug bounty hunting, you don't want to download, install, and configure your tools each and every time. I started in bug bounty hunting using Kali Linux, but lately I found that it's heavy to spin up Kali Linux and install my tools each and every time, because sometimes I just changed my laptop, other times I just delete my Kali VirtualBox machine. So what I did was write a script that would install and configure all my tools if I had to change my box, or if I want to deploy them in an EC2 instance, for example. I'm not sure if I answered this question correctly. I think you meant how to keep having those tools and not losing them whenever you lose the machine. In this case, I just use a script to download, install, and configure them. Okay, next question. The first thing you do when you start website pen test. The first thing I do is to read the program policy or sit down with the client and discuss the scope. This is really the first thing I do, because I don't like to test for features which are out of scope, which might end up affecting my trust with the client or decreasing my reputation by closing my report as not applicable. But I don't think this is the answer that you want to hear. I think you mean, what do you do after you open the web browser? So let's assume we agree on the scope. I have a clear idea about the scope policy. What I do is just visit the web application and use it as any normal user who would use it, and proxy everything through my web proxy. I use burp. Sometimes I use Zap proxy, but it's rare. I go to the burp options under target scope, and then I use advanced scope control, and then I add whatever scope I have. So if the host name says juiceshop.com, then I include juiceshop. And then I go to proxy HTTP history, and then I click on the filter tab and I show only in scope items. This allows me to eliminate the noise. I already discussed this technique in the videos about Burp Suite extensions playlist and also on live hacking sessions as well. I hope this answers your question. All right, 13th question. What kind of job should freshers do? Cybersecurity analyst in startup or in MNC? What does MNC mean? I'm not sure. MNC. Multinational corporation or company. For a fresh graduate who want a job that gives him or her a great introduction to cybersecurity, that would be something related with system administration or networking. And if you work in a startup, I don't think that you would do much. But a big corporation, you would have to do a lot of things in system administration and networking, maybe help desk as well. I would say that startups are good for developers. So if you want to start your cybersecurity journey by understanding how web applications work and going really deep, then yeah, a startup, I guess, is better. But for other aspects, I would say that a big corporation is better. But this is just my point of view. Don't take my word for it. Okay, last question. How can I enjoy learning hacking without stressing about results? Well, results what makes me unfocused on things. So how did you overcome? So if I understood the question correctly, you are focused on getting some results which you don't reach, and then you get stressed, and so you lose the learning joy. Well, I think that the best thing to do is to lower your expectations. If you are barely starting at bug bounty hunting or hacking in general, just focus on learning. Your goal should be, for example, in this month, I would learn the OWASP Top 10, for example. And then the next month, you would read a book, and so on and so forth. And then after 6 months, you may be interested in boning boxes. So you start maybe on Try Hack Me or Hack the Box or rootme.org, and you just try your luck with some boxes. You learn as much as you can. Don't expect to pwn one box a day, because that would be an unrealistic result, which would cause you stress. Your goal should be, for example, to learn enumeration. So you do enumeration on the box as much as you can. You learn how Nmap works. You learn how to do brute forcing of directories. You learn new tools. And just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't raise the bar for your expectations. And just do baby steps over time with consistency would give you a great results. All right, I think we've gone over all the questions. Hopefully I answered your questions. If you feel that I didn't answer your question, either partially or fully, make sure to drop me a comment in the comment section, and I will do my best to complete my answer. If you found this content helpful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so that you get updates whenever I publish a new video on ethical hacking and bug bounty hunting. If you're new to hacking and want to learn the basics, check out the free OWASP Top 10 theory and hands-on training on thehackerish.com and apply your knowledge on the lab which supports it. If you enjoy learning with videos, I invite you to watch the OWASP Top 10 YouTube playlist. However, I encourage you to first try to solve the lab exercises so that you don't spoil them. Don't forget that there are supporting blog posts for most of the videos you watch on this YouTube channel. I also encourage you to subscribe to the Friday newsletter on thehackerish.com to gain some new hacking knowledge at the end of the week. If you enjoy listening while doing other things at the same time, check out the Hack for Fun and Profit podcast, link in the description box. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and go find some bugs.